Good day, everybody. So today's episode is going to be a focus on the major failures that I think led up to this. And I think a lot of people, including the family, think that there were a lot of failures, not only in the home health companies side of it, but also in the aspect of law enforcement. We are coming at almost 2 months since Joyce's murder, and there have been no charges pressed against the main subject. So for those of you who don't know, Joyce Grayson was a home health visiting nurse working for a company called Alara Caring out of Connecticut, and she was sent to a halfway house or transitional housing for sex offenders, one that was not monitored, one that was not, there was no supervision there. She was sent there on a Saturday visit to go refill a med box, and she did not make it out of that visit. I've had people on my social media accounts in the comments tell me that there was supposed to be a dual visit there, but it didn't happen because the nurse called out. I'm just not sure why they would even send her there alone. Now, the family has gotten representation. Of course, I mentioned that in my last video, and they are looking to pursue charges against Alara Caring because this guy has had a record. He was known to be dangerous, and yet there was no real follow-up with him. It was just kind of like, well, whatever. So we're going to look at the failures, not only, like I said, into the home health company, which we're all pretty aware of. They shouldn't have sent her in there alone. But we're going to go into the failures of the justice system and how this system failed this nurse, failed the community. So the last time this man, monster, whatever you want to call him, was in court was about a week ago. You kind of have to go around. So let's get into the suspect here, who still shall not be named because he doesn't matter, other than the fact that the law enforcement, the criminal justice system failed in this aspect. So in 2006, he brutally stabbed a sex worker in the neck and choked her and whatted her before leaving her there to die. His reasoning was because there was a dispute over money about what was supposed to be paid and when. And she basically had to crawl into the road. She threw a glass bottle at a passerby to get attention to the situation. So he was put in jail from 2007 to 2021 when he was released on probation. He was supposed to be on probation into 2032. Obviously, that has ended because he is now in jail. But between the 2 years that he was on probation, he violated probation multiple times. One of the terms of his probation was no illicit use, any substance use, no alcohol, whatever. And he tested positive repeatedly, failed multiple drug tests, didn't show up for court, failed to comply with treatment. So he also was supposed to be put into an inpatient center, which he did not show up for the phone screening of that. Eventually, he did show up. He got denied a bed for unknown reasons, according to his probation officer. And then back in March, his probation officer suggested that he go check himself in, go to an inpatient facility. And he refused. So how do you suggest that to somebody who's a violent offender? It should just be a thing. Like, I'm your probation officer. You are seemingly not doing the right things. You're not doing what you should. You should go check in. So eventually he was arrested again. He was put back in jail and he was released early again. And he was sent to this transitional house where Joyce went to go see him that day, which is unbelievable because of the fact that he was put into a house where he only had to check in with a probation officer 3 times a month. That's it. And wear a GPS anklet. There was no other oversight there. There was no house supervisor. There was nobody there 24/7. So you're letting people in to this house, to obviously take care of them health-wise with really no supervision. You know what I mean? It's basically like a frat house for sex offenders. It just doesn't make sense. because not only are there nurses there, but there's social workers going in and out, there's aides going in and out to do such a horrible crime, nearly killing somebody. And then your punishment is basically, well, you're going to be put on probation, we're going to watch you, and then you violate probation multiple times, not only just by not complying with the parameters of your probation, but not showing up for hearings, not showing up for treatment, things like that. Obviously, he has a history. He's been on law enforcement's radar for like most of his adult life. And when he did get reincarcerated, they let him out early anyway. And then they sent him to this with 2 other guys in the same situation as him. And then they would send healthcare workers in there to do visits. Like, that's normal. And, oh, we're only going to check in with you 3 times a month. I'm sorry. So that was a downfall in the systemic failure into all of this. Even the house where they stayed is a systemic failure in itself, because this house is in a neighborhood, right? And I get they have GPS monitoring bracelets on, but how far exactly can they get? I don't know. You know what I mean? I guess I'm not really too well versed, and I can't speak on the parameters of how well they're monitored with the bracelet. I've also learned that you do have to pay for those bracelets every single month. And keep in mind, the suspect was a high supervision classification. So he was the highest class that you could get. Obviously, he's violent. So on to another systemic failure. Okay, so back in 2016, funding for Medicaid was cut. In the following year, the Medicaid reimbursement for behavioral health was cut by 15%. So that's a chunk. Keep that in mind. The add-on rate, which is specifically for escorts for high-risk situation visits, like the one Joyce went into, was cut the next year. That was taken off, period. There was no more of that. It was eliminated. So, therefore, they are not going to get reimbursed if they have to pay for another person to go there. They have to eat that cost. According to, oh my God. Oh, jeez. Now, from what I know is that Joyce had asked for an escort to this visit. And on that day, apparently, from somebody who worked with her, there was supposed to be somebody who went with her, but that person called out of work. So I guess they just were like, well, it's a quick visit. Maybe you can just do it yourself. Or maybe they just didn't have somebody to like step in. But I would be like, oh, no med refills. Med refills on the weekend in home health is wild anyway. They should really be done during routine visits. There's more staffing on the weekdays than there are weekends. On weekends, you're working with the skeleton crew. So it's kind of unbelievable to hear about the entire background of the situation, knowing his history, and that there were so many people just poo-pooed it away. If he got rearrested, for probation violations when he was just on probation for 2 years. He couldn't even do that, okay? And he was let out early. For what? Good behavior? I don't know. So, I guess we will still have to see. This isn't really an update, but I always check up on this case at least a couple times a week to see if there's updates. Now we know February 16th is when the date has been pushed back to, so there might not be anything from here and now. So now that I'm a little off kilter because my camera is about to die and my cat's about to knock everything over. Diana. I didn't get to finish because my camera died, even though it was fully charged when I started. So, like I said, I will continue to follow this. I do regularly check for updates, but I think the next big update we're going to get is in February, if we see any progress on this case at all. If you would like to follow me, that would be great. It is free, so feel free to subscribe and like, and leave any comments that you choose, any questions or whatever. Obviously, I do videos on hospice, but obviously I'm doing a little spin-off series on this, so hello. You can also follow me on my other socials as well. I do post there when I upload videos on here. My hair looks crazy. Stay tuned for my next video. I kind of make them sporadically. It's busy as the holidays. I hope everybody has a good holiday, and keep in mind that this is the first holiday that Joyce's family is experiencing without her. So keep them in your thoughts. Send them all your love, because I can only imagine how difficult it is for her kids and her grandkids right now, and all those who were close to her. So stay safe out there, and yeah, have a good day.